So we're just getting the presentation up now. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Jacob.
I'm having trouble hearing you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Alright, so for those of you who don't know, my name is Jacob. I'm a holistic health practitioner. I'm licensed and trained with the CHEK Institute. So if you don't know what the CHEK Institute is, CHEK stands for Corrective Holistic Exercise Kinesiology. So it takes a comprehensive holistic approach to high performance athletic conditioning, athletic rehabilitation, joint pain, mental emotional issues. There are multiple different areas that need to be screened and taken into consideration for any particular program. Because humans are a system of systems. You can't just look at one thing and not take into consideration the other parts of the program too. So today, when the images actually come on, we're going to be talking about essentially who stole your health as per the title. And that is not a dig at Big Pharma yet. So, just while we're waiting, how many people have, show of hands, how many people have actually heard about the holistic approach? Just while we're waiting for the, just while we're waiting for that to get sorted out, just a show of hands, who here knows about the holistic approach? Who's heard about it before? You do? Okay, cool. So, the title is Who Stole Your Health? But what I wanted this presentation to be about is the main basic points of what degrades people's health and the main points that brings it back. And we've only got a certain amount of time in this presentation to actually explain that, but simple things work best. And it doesn't actually need to be that complex when you actually understand it. So, cool. Alright, so we've got nice and down. How are we doing for the images? Okay. Okay, cool. Alright, so in terms of what stole your health, the main thing, as you see when the images come up, the first thing that comes to mind is stress. So, show of hands, who here has endured too much stress in their life? Definitely me as well. I think stress is probably the main one, and there are different kinds of stress. Stress can be physical, stress can be psychic, so emotional, it can be nutritional, it can be thermal, too hot or too cold. It can also be electromagnetic, too much sun, enough sun. And all of these things affect us in one way or another. They can be, but at the same time we need a certain amount in order to optimize health, because the person who coined the term stress said the total absence of stress is death. So what we want to do is get a good amount and not have too much. So that brings into consideration the concept of stress bucket and how all stress summates in the body. So it all comes together and the body either knows if it's too stressed or has too little stress. Either end, we've still got dysfunction. So as per the yin-yang symbol, we want a nice balance of both. So in terms of what holistic actually means, as a term, holistic means wholeness. So it's not to exclude or demonize any particular one, but it means to integrate it and to harmonize it optimally. So the yin-yang symbol has two sides. It's got the yang side, which is the doing, more stressful side. It's got the yin side, which is the more restorative, restful side. And that's the black part of the yin-yang symbol. Yang is white. But we've got a little dot of each in either. But health means that middle bit, that middle line right down the center. So what it means to live holistic is to actually live down that central line. And the other, alright, I'm just going to get my sheet here. So we've got the yin-yang symbol, And you all have these as well, so you can pick these up and I'll talk through it. So we've got to go down the middle. Oh, is it not working?
Not yet, we're waiting for the cat.
Okay, alright. So, who's saw your health? These are typical common symptoms. Back pain, knee pain, injury, brain fog, anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, poor digestion, lack of awe in life, on and on and on. All these kinds of symptoms are really, really common. We hear about them all the time, maybe we experience them ourselves, but common does not mean normal. The normal state of the human being is health, harmony, and a happy disposition, where we understand what we want to do in life, we understand where we're going, and we have the vitality to endure the challenges that are inevitable along the way. So, as I mentioned earlier, who stole your health? Too much stress and a lack of balance. So, it's with the CHECK Institute, the primary foundational principles that we adhere to are what are known as the 4 doctrines. If we have these 4 doctrines in line with each other, we have balance, our life has balance. There are 2 yin principles and 2 yang principles. The 2 yin principles are Dr. Quiet and Dr. Diet. So Dr. Quiet means rest. What do we like to do to rest? What gives us rest? And as per the holistic principle, what gives one person rest may not give another person rest. So each person has to figure that out for themselves. One person may like to paint, another person may like to go and walk around barefoot on the grass, another person, well, hopefully everyone's getting enough sleep, but another person may like to go out and see a movie with their friends. Whatever it is that allows the system to calm down is a really important part of every person's week, because if we can't rest, then we can't recover from the exertion that we gain. We can't recover from the work stress, we can't recover from the family stress or relationship stress, whatever it is. Or the stress of just doing what we want to do, what we want to create. Dr. Diet, optimal nutrition. And that's also one of the foundation ones, because nutritional stress is one of the root drivers of all other stress. So if someone's got knee pain, we would have to take into consideration the nutritional aspects too, because everything's linked. An example would be if someone's eating inflammatory foods like gluten. That's a typical and common one. This is just to illustrate how things are linked together. That would shut down the stabilizer fibers of the core. Then if the core is not functioning, it can't stabilize the lower limb. The knee starts to buckle inwards, the ACL ligament starts to get stressed, the arch in the foot starts to collapse. Then we get things like ACL strains, hallux valgus, which is like the big toe starting to flare out, and you get plantar fasciitis and all the rest of it. But what's the issue? Is it the knee, or is it the gut, or is it actually the fact that someone was eating gluten in the first place? But then we need to ask ourselves the question: why were they eating gluten in the first place? Well, when you eat gluten, it gives your brain the same kind of feeling as when you take opiates. So, is someone trying to medicate themselves for something that they don't want to admit to? So, is the root driver actually gluten, or is the root driver an unresolved emotion? This is the depth of screening that needs to happen, so we can actually find what the root issue is and then get someone healthy. Doesn't mean we don't address those other things down that domino chain, but if we don't find the root and then address it, what we have is we're just dealing with symptoms. We're not actually going to get a lasting change. And every CHECK practitioner that you talk to will be wanting to coach someone to the point where they don't need us anymore. So that the individual's also learning how to manage their own health at the same time, so that by the end of the program, be it 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, that varies depending on the intensity of what someone's dealing with. But by the end of that time, they can manage themselves. And then just go up, they're a self-contained health unit, and they can just go off and be happy doing whatever it is they would like to do. Which brings us to the Yang principles. Dr. Happiness. This is what's known as chief physician, and that is what is our dream. What is my dream? What's your dream? What do I want to do in life? And if someone doesn't know, which is fine, it's not a judgment, but the best question to ask after that is, what is my nightmare? Because that tends to be a little bit more close to the surface and easier to find out. Even if someone doesn't know what they want to do, most people know exactly what they don't want to do. So usually what they want to do is an opposite of that. But if we're not clear on what we want to do, then we're kind of going around a little bit aimlessly. And psychic stress is one of the most intense kind of stresses we can have, and the biggest cause of that is not knowing what we want to do in life. As Jerry Wesh says, if you have a big enough dream, you don't need a crisis, because you've got direction. And also when you have direction, you know what you want to do in life. It gives a proportion to everything else that you do. If you want to be a professional athlete, that automatically gives you an idea of how much training you need versus if you want to be a painter. Having an Olympian's training program isn't kind of optimal if you just want to draw all day, and vice versa. But also, you kind of know, all right, maybe I shouldn't hang out with that person because they're not actually that positive and it's not actually contributing to making you feel charged up to want to do this particular thing I want to do in life. It gives everything proportion. It gives you a direction. And when you have a direction, even if you're not there yet, that's a massive weight off your shoulders. And as everything links together, when you have that weight off your shoulders, that also means that you're more parasympathetic in terms of your nervous system. So you're not in so much fight or flight. Adrenaline and cortisol are down, immune function's up, you're able to rest and sleep a bit better. That's going to have a positive effect on your gut microbiome. So you're not going to potentially have things like leaky gut. You're going to feel more motivated to eat good foods, because when you eat bad food, you don't have the energy to do things you want to do. And then when we get into this positive cycle, where all the decisions are positively linking and feeding into each other, and it almost feels like this positive inertia that's just carrying you forward. But it all started with knowing what you wanted to do, and then the final Yang principle, and this is the last four doctor, is doctor movement. Now, key thing here, it says doctor movement, not doctor exercise. So what that means is the right amount of movement for what your dream is. And it's not to burn yourself out with an ask you to this and turbo class here and there to just burn out your dreaming plans. It means progressive movement on a consistent basis, potentially in just a therapeutic dose, which means just enough to feel good and enlivened, but also keep joints moving, keep the lymphatics flowing. And again, your doctor happy to decide how much movement is right for you and the intensity. And if you do want to be a professional athlete and really move that way, then again, a progressive program that builds to that, so that whilst also making sure that you have regular consultations with Dr. Quiet and Dr. Diet, so that inflammation stays low, you're resting enough, and you have the vitality to actually do what you need to be doing without it draining you. When vitality is high, you can enjoy what you're doing. Even athletes who are doing the sport that they love, if they're burnt out, you can't sleep, and the rest of it's really hard to do what they're doing. There's so much of that, because a lot of these foundational principles are not actually adhered to. The four doctors break down into 6 foundational health principles. So the 3 on the inside are sleep, nutrition, and hydration. And 3 on the yang side are breathing, thinking, and movement. So sleep, that is the chief in principle. Ideally what we need to do is get to sleep at around about 10 p.m. and stay asleep until about 6 a.m. And the reason for that is because our hormones are tied to the rise and fall of the sun and the moon. 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is physiological repair, and 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is psychological repair. So when the sun starts to go down, the moon starts to rise, melatonin starts to rise, and then it starts to fall, and then around 6 a.m. cortisol starts to rise to wake us up. But if people are going to bed a bit later, like maybe they're doing their favourite exercise class at 7 o'clock at night, and that spikes up cortisol, which has a half-life of 4 to 6 hours. It's really hard to get to bed and going from sleep at like 2 AM, kind of miss all the physiological repair window, and then stay in bed until 9 AM, and then you get up and feel a bit sluggish, and now it's hard to kind of get some inertia and momentum today. That needs to be addressed. But sometimes just a simple switch. Get into bed earlier. But again, thinking back to Dr. Happiness. Dr. Happiness gives someone a reason to go to bed earlier. I want to get to bed earlier, so I have the energy to do what I want to do. It gives your body a reason why. And also, when it comes to like the corrective or postural aspects of holistic health, it gives your body a reason to change. Sometimes one of the reasons why people don't heal is because they haven't been clear on what their Dr. Happiness is. So to their body, why go through that? That's just effort, there's no point. And then nutrition, that relates to Dr. Diet. So we also need to make sure that most of the food that we're getting is organic. It's not to say don't have fun. Even gluten. There are particular supplements that you can take that have the enzymes that break gluten down, so you can holistically enjoy the bad stuff. So holistic means wholeness, so it still includes that and space to enjoy your bad stuff. When I say bad, it's a bit judgmental. The stuff that doesn't function well with them. And hydration, average 2 litres of high quality water a day, preferably not tap water, because it's full of chemicals. High quality bottled water, preferably from a spring, Highland Spring, Evian, Buxton. Those are some simple good options. They also have a high mineral content as well. Hydration is needed for peristalsis in the gut to happen as well, and if you're dehydrated, you can squeeze water out of fecal matter in the colon, so then people can get constipation, and that can also inflame your gut. That can shut down your stabilizer functions in the core as well. So now we see, as we talked about the core and stabilizing what happens to the lower limb, now we can also see how everything's kind of like a spider's web and affecting each other. And on the yang side, breathing, how to breathe properly. The first 2/3 of every breath should be diaphragmatic. So the belly should expand first, and then the last third should be the chest. That's how babies breathe as well. Like if you've ever seen babies on their back, their belly's kind of going up and down like this. When the belly expands, the diaphragm can actually move up and down. And when you expand the belly and the diaphragm goes down, it actually shunts the spine up, which actually nudges the brain in a positive way. And also when you diaphragmatically breathe, it tells your body that you're calm. So anybody that's experienced anxious states, the number one thing that they need to do first is actually learn how to breathe properly. Because if you've got an inverted breathing pattern, that's the first 2/3 are chesty, that's also how anxious people breathe. So you're reinforcing physiologically to your brain, I am in an anxious state. And then your brain will make that reality, because physiologically you're telling your brain that you are in that state as well. So one of the first things that people should do to actually calm themselves, diaphragmatic breathing through the nose, because that also activates the parasympathetic nervous system, keeping the tongue pressed to the roof of the mouth, because that also closes what's known as the micropulmonary orbit. So the energy that comes from the oxygenation from the breath actually can circulate properly. And thinking, am I an optimist or a pessimist? That's what that means in a nutshell. Is this situation, no matter how bad, catastrophic, painful, awful, is this here to teach me something, or is this here to just torture me? Because no matter how bad something is, there's always a lesson that can be drawn. So if we think about the word pain, pain is spelled P-A-I-N. And if we think about that as an acronym, PAIN stands for prompting attention in the now. It's like a finger that prods you in the present moment to let you know that something's off. So it's actually kind of useful. So if someone's feeling something like that, maybe some mental pain, some catastrophization, coming back to their inner self, the wiser self, what is this here to teach me? They can actually find a lot of value in these painful experiences and reframe it. And then their body will follow too. Because when people don't catastrophize something, their body won't create a catastrophic state. If you catastrophize that, that's a bit of a tongue twister. You catastrophize, and then you interpret this as this is just here to torture me, then the brain will start physically reciprocating, reflecting that. So cortisol is going to shoot up, cortisol is going to overstress the adrenal glands will create steroid hormones. So for men, primarily testosterone, women, estrogen, progesterone, that can tank that. And it's also going to potentially exhaust the adrenal glands, so eventually maybe they don't produce enough cortisol. So then the cells themselves are not actually protected against the stress. But all of that, if we go back, can actually be addressed through just optimal thinking. Now, we can't choose what happens to us all the time. We can choose how we respond to it. So we can choose whether it's going to be a positive thing for us, and we're going to learn from it and say, right, okay, this really sucks, but okay, what's this here to teach me? Prompting attention in the now. What is this here to teach me right now? And then moving optimally. What kind of movement do I enjoy, and how much of it makes me feel good and doesn't make me feel bad? And then we can also think about movement in a bit of a wider context, like emotional too. So the movement of emotions around the body, and that relates to thinking. But that's just a brief overview of the 4 dots and 6 foundation elements and how they kind of interrelate with each other. So, how are we doing for time? Okay, so what I'd like to do now, because I have to kind of adapt and fly a little bit, technology is reliable as always. So what I'd like to do now is open it up for some questions. I know I was a little bit all over the place, but I had an order for the slides, but because the technology was working, I had to kind of adapt. So I hope you guys, thank you for being patient with me on that. But based on what I was saying, or anything that you see on here, or anything you've experienced personally, do you have any questions? It could just be a simple like, what's that? Please explain it to me, or something that I said. So, and if you may feel like you don't want to ask it publicly, then I do have these question sheets, so you're welcome to put your details down and write the question down, and I'll be able to get back to you by email. Yeah, so primal pattern movement analysis, that would be the 7 primal patterns are push, pull, squat, bend, lunge, twist, and gait. Gait being walking, running, sprinting. So we need to actually assess these primal patterns to see if there's any dysfunction there. And we need to assess them in what's known as the open chain and the closed chain. So the open chain means that you can overcome the resistance. So that'd be like lifting a dumbbell. Closed chain would mean you can't overcome the resistance. That would be like doing a push-up on the floor. You can't push the earth away. You can only push up from it. And gait, assessing like whether they were optimal rotation pattern, because there's a rotation in gait. You go like this, the spine has to rotate the opposite way. But sometimes if maybe posture's a bit off, some muscles are a bit short and tight, some are a bit long and weak, and we haven't got optimized posture, or there's a bit of rigidity in the spine. Sometimes this and there's enough twist. Maybe there's a bit of a hip wag. So medius on that side, maybe a little bit loose. But these are eyeball assessments, but the musculoskeletal posture assessments are objective, where we actually have particular tools on the spine to measure. So that's a brief overview with that. Are there any other questions?
How would you then treat those things through various methods?
Yeah, well, based on what the missing element is, like maybe there is a rotational pattern. First, we'd see if they're not rotating one way. Maybe they're not rotating that way, but they are this way. And, then we'd also look at the nutrition and lifestyle to see if it's just purely musculoskeletal, or whether there's a nutritional, mental, emotional driver. So an example of a mental emotional driver of more rotation one way versus the other way. The left side of the body is the feminine side, and the right side of the body is the masculine side. So if someone has more trouble rotating one way, maybe they've got more of a challenge with their father than their mother, for example. That's a little bit more out there, but it's definitely a factor. Or maybe they've got, this is a more objective assessment reason, maybe they have a disc bulge, but it's bulged more to one side than the other. So posterior, lateral, but lateral more to one side. That's another thing that can cause it. And then, like glute medius, that would, if you get a hip wag, or what's known as a Trendelenburg sign, that just means we need to strengthen that up. But we'd see if it's equal on both sides. If it's more to one side than the other, now we have, when we come to program design, a more to one side, so that would be like a left, right, or a right, left, right, for an exercise for that muscle. Because we would see more to one side than the other side. And also with that, if we were dealing with a female client or a female athlete, we have to prescribe that at the right moment in the hormonal cycle, so that they get the corrective strengthening work done when they have high hormone profile. Because if that's done at a time when hormone profile is low, well, they don't have the hormone profile to support the exertion and actually rebound optimally from it. So that's also an aspect of our training which is quite in depth. But if you miss that, and you don't take that into consideration for female athletes and clients, then you can really mess them up. And it's especially important for us male trainers to study and learn that, because we don't experience that. So it's not as instinctual for us to think about it unless it's told to us in training. You must take care of this as well. So I think we should kick this out because on account of the technology. So do you have any more questions? Or anything you're just curious about with regards to the gym system, or me in particular? Currently around the Twickenham, Richmond, Kingston kind of area. I'm currently figuring out whether I want to base myself out of the clinic or maybe think about my own, but I'm around that area. Yeah, and I'm also born and raised in that area. So like, aside from holistic health being what I want to, it's what my doctor happiness is. I'm really, really passionate about just supporting my community. Because not everyone can do everything, and no one should do everything. This is my specialty, and part of what my happiness is, and for every jet practitioner, we just want to share this information with people and help coach them to be the healthiest, happiest, most harmonized versions of themselves, to the point where they don't need us anymore, so they've got their health in their own hands. And they're not dependent on the doctor just saying, all right, this pill, that pill, and the practitioner saying, all right, okay, see you for life, you must come every week for the rest of your life, and all that kind of stuff. It's not true, you don't need that. But as we coach and do the work, that's why it's coaching them. You need to want them to understand and learn these principles so they've got them in their own hands. So ultimately, they don't need this anymore. And I'm really passionate about doing that in the community that I grew up in. So, Richmond, Kingston area, and like sort of pin in the map, sort of like 3 to 5 mile radius around it, kind of thing.